Hey, today we're going to make some cookies. Well, everybody's making cookies at this time of year. We're going to make some ricotta cookies today. So I don't know if you ever had that recipe, but it's really good. It's a little extra step because you have to ice them, but it's worth it. And they're moist and they're just so good. So we're going to start out by using these ingredients here. I'll just show you quickly what I'm going to put together. I'm going to cream some butter and some sugar and add some eggs. And then I'm going to add some vanilla and ricotta cheese. Also some baking powder and some flour. That's all that goes into the first step. So I'm going to start by putting in 2 full sticks of butter. I happen to have the quarter sticks here, so we actually want 1 cup of butter. And I've been letting these sit on the counter and get soft for a couple hours. We're going to get them in the mixing bowl first. Hey, you know, this isn't my mixer. If you're used to my nice, beautiful colored mixer, this is a different one. Also beautiful. This is Rick's mixer. Since he was making cookies earlier, take a look at the counter here. He made some beautiful chocolate chippers with nuts in them. Oh gosh, we already enjoyed some of those with some glasses of milk, right, Rick?
Yep.
They came out so nice.
My favorite.
Your favorite. Also, I heard it was Santa Claus's favorite.
Ho, ho, ho.
I'm going to put a link to the video where those chocolate chip cookies were made. Okay? Alright, I'm going to start creaming the butter here. It's going to make a little noise. And as the butter starts creaming, I'm going to add 2 cups of granulated sugar. I'm going to add 2 eggs now, one at a time. These are jumbo eggs. Large eggs are good for this recipe, or jumbo. If you use jumbo eggs, you may have to add a little extra flour. Oh boy, we got a twin on this one. So we're going to pour them in slowly, like one at a time. And let them mix up, make it a little bit faster. Nice and creamy in there. Alright, now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Now that's a lot of vanilla, but that's what carries the flavor through these cookies. These are actually Italian ricotta cookies, the recipe that I have. A lot of people have one like this in their family recipe book, but we enjoy them at Christmas time. Okay, 2 tablespoons. Alright, we're going to save the dry ingredients for last, but this recipe calls for 1 pound of ricotta cheese. Now, I have a 2-pound container here, so I'm just going to roughly put in half of it. So I'm going to stir that into the creamy mixture. And a lot of times people get fresh ricotta and it's going to be a little more watery. Again, if you need to adjust to make the batter a little bit thicker, you can add more flour. This is a rather drier version of ricotta cheese, so I put in half of that container. And we're going to blend this up. I'm going to put the speed on a little bit higher right now. I think somebody's already eating the chocolate chips again. Alright, I'm going to stop it just for a moment and scrape the sides of the bowl. I'm going to make sure that all that butter gets incorporated into the wet mix. Alright, Next, we're going to add a tablespoon of baking powder. Level off a tablespoon there. Toss it into the mixer. We're going to add about a tablespoon of salt if you like. Just going to add a little bit here to help the baking process. Alright, now I have 4 cups of flour. Alright, I'm going to add the chute here for the flour. And that way it won't come out all over the room here. So I'm going to turn it on very slow. I'm going to push the flour in. You can hear the speed of the mixer start to change as the flour makes the batter thicker. Yeah, I kind of like the blue mixer.
Why?
Alright, let's stop it and take a look. Okay, now we want a batter that's thick enough that it won't spread around on the cookie sheet. And I think this one came out perfect. It's a little bit stiff, as you can see. And we can measure this out into level tablespoons as we put it on our baking sheet. Now we want this to come out like a little mound, because when we're done baking it and we put it on the tray to cool off, we're going to mix up a nice little icing that will drizzle down over top of the mound like a little snowball. Cookie sheets here prepared with parchment paper, and we have the oven set at 350 degrees. It's already preheated. Okay, now I'm going to take this nice big bowl of batter. As you can see how stiff it is, that's what you want yours to come out like, so they stay in nice little mounds. So it's said in our recipe, use level tablespoons. I'll use a heaping tablespoon. And I'm using parchment paper, as you can see already has cookie marks on it. That's because Rick used this, and there's no reason why we can't use it for several batches of cookies here. Get some nice, good use out of it. It's the butter that you see making a mark on there. And that's what smelled so good in the kitchen, right, Rick?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Alright, so this is going to make a nice size batch. And we'll get them right in the oven. And we really got to keep an eye on these because they're white, and the light color will burn quickly if we don't get them out when they're nice and puffy and finished baking. Okay, something like that going in. Okay, 350 degrees is the temperature. 15 minutes is the baking time we're looking for here. Alright, while they're baking, I'm going to start loading up the rest of the trays, putting the batter on the parchment paper. And we'll get a big batch going at one time. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, time's up to check the first tray. Okay. Now, I'm going to take these out. They're very light, but you can see brown around the edges. And they're not burnt on the bottom. They're just nicely brown, but they're firm and they're finished baking. So I'm going to get the first 2 trays out. We're going to start cooling these off. Whew. That one's perfect also. See, they're nice and firm. Now we're going to let these cool, and they have to be very cool before we put the icing on. So I'm going to bake up the rest of them. Here I have quite a bit left in the bowl, and I have 3 sheets in the oven yet. I'm going to get that all finished up, and I'll come back and make the icing for you, and I'll show you how we ice them and make them look pretty for Christmas. Okay, as you can see, I have a nice pile of cooled cookies here. We're just going to spread them out on another piece of parchment paper so I can drizzle icing on them. And these are room temperature now. I have a few more trays coming out of the oven, but I'm going to show you the final step here so you can see what to do if you're making them yourself. Okay, now one thing you want to do ahead of time, mise en place, is pick your topping. So we have a whole variety of toppings here, different colors of sugar, and we're going to pick something that looks kind of Christmassy or festive. I like these little balls. They look nice on the Italian ricotta cookies. We can also try a couple with red and green sugar sprinkles. Okay, let's do that. But pick something that you like out of your cooking closet. And we're going to start with an empty bowl again. Go back to the KitchenAid. 2 cups of powdered sugar. So this is such an easy recipe. You won't believe that you haven't done it before if you never did. Alright, and I'm just going to add 2 cups to the measuring cup. Alright, just roughly. You're going to adjust it by the amount of milk that you add to this. Alright, to this we're going to add 3 tablespoons of whole milk. And I'm going to use my whisk for this one. Okay, I'm just going to add these 3 tablespoons of milk slowly because we don't want the icing to get too runny. So let's just start the mixer up and we'll slowly pour in 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. It's starting to get wet in there, but it's not creamy enough to spread as icing. So here's the 3rd tablespoon. Now it's still a little thick. I'm just going to add another half. Alright, that should do it. See the consistency that you see there? That's nice to spread on the top of these cookies, and then it'll drizzle down. And that'll give us enough moisture to add the sugar toppings on them. Okay, alright, let's end it up. I'm going to use our little flexible spurtle here to spread it on. So let's get a little room. Now we got to be ready. We got to be ready to put the toppings on. This one has a shaker top. I'm just going to start with some big ones. Just go a little bit like, it doesn't have to be totally covered. Just enough on top so that we can sprinkle the toppings on. And just something like this. Now you could put them in a bowl and dip them, but sometimes that puts a lot of topping on. Just want something like this, and it will stick there in the icing. Aren't they pretty? That's how we're going to do the Italian ricotta cookies. I'm going to finish up this tray and show you how it all looks together, but try this recipe. You know, it's so simple, and the icing, do you believe how easy that is? Alright, I'm going to get them all done, and I'll show you the whole tray at the end. Nice to get the sugar or toppings on there before it hardens, and then they'll stick. It's kind of like a little cement for the topping. You can do other toppings also if you want to use halves of candied cherries, or you could use nuts, ground up nuts or whole nuts. All kinds of toppings could be used here. Aren't they beautiful? We're going to add these to the pile that Rick already made earlier tonight, and we're going to keep on baking. So we'll be glad to show you some of our recipes as we get through our holiday cooking. And think about using these also like for Easter time. One thing we can do with this cookie dough that's nice and stiff like this, you can form a rabbit's paw, and you can put these sprinkles on, and you can make a rabbit's paw cookie for Easter time. It's really fun for the kids. Okay, well, have a nice holiday, and I hope you get a chance to try making some of these goodies for your holiday too. Thanks for watching.